Hello everybody, thank you for joining us again for Chapter 3 for AP U.S. Government and Politics. And for today's episode, we'll be talking about federalism, which is a governmental structure or a political system where local government units can make final decisions regarding some governmental activities and whose existence is protected. And it's a unitary system, so local governments are subservient to the national government. Some hot issues. Some of the hottest issues in American politics are at their core disputes over federalism. Some of these hot issues include gay marriage, medical marijuana, Obamacare, and even immigration enforcement. So in general, the federal government has power over economic issues, the military, and defense. But in general, state governments have power over social, moral, and also family issues. So some positive and negatives of federalism are that some negative views are federalism blocks progress and protects powerful local interests. Some positive views is that federalism contributes to governmental strength, also political flexibility, and it also fosters individual liberty and the development of leaders. And in the Federalist number 10, small political units allow all relevant interests to be heard. So the full faith and credit clause requires states to recognize the public acts and legal judgments of other states. The privileges and immunities clause requires states to offer out-of-state citizens the same treatment as in-state residents. Extradition is a process where a state must return a person when he or she has been charged with a crime in another state. And federalism over time. There's dual federalism. Both national and state governments are supreme in their own spheres, which should be kept separate. And there's cooperative federalism. The state and federal spheres overlap and distinctions between them are blurred. Categorical grants versus revenue sharing. Categorical grants are for specific purposes defined by federal law, and they often require local matching funds. So these project grants are based on competitive applications and must be used for a specific purpose, for such as building an airport. And formula grants are based on a formula, like the percentage of who fall below the poverty line. And the devolution of power occurs when the federal government gives more authority and discretion to state governments. Block grants, or the Welfare Reform Act, were devoted to general purposes with few restrictions, while revenue sharing requires no matching funds and can be spent on almost any governmental purpose. Federal aid and federal control. Fiscal federalism is the use of federal taxing and spending which impacts the states through grants and aid. Conditions of aid tell state governments what they must do if they wish to receive grant money, like raising the drinking age to 21 is an example of this. Mandates are federal rules that states or localities must obey. These generally have little or nothing to do with federal aid. And an unfunded mandate occurs when states must comply with the federal law, but are not provided with funds. So an example of this is the Americans with Disabilities Act. And federalism versus the Constitution. The 10th Amendment states that all power not delegated to the national government, nor prohibited in the states, is reserved to the states and the people. But Article 1, Section 8 allows Congress to make all laws necessary and proper for carrying out its enumerated powers. So this is also known as the Elastic Clause. And in McCulloch versus Maryland, could Congress charter a national bank? So they decided yes, even though this power is not explicitly in the Constitution. And could states tax the national bank? No, because the power to tax is the power to destroy. So increasing national power. In Gibson versus Ogden in 1824, the court defined commerce broadly to include all intercourse between states. In Heartland of Atlanta Motel versus the U.S., which is not technically a federalism case, the court upheld the Civil Rights Act of 1964 using the Commerce Clause. This greatly expanded federal power. So what is left of state power? By the last quarter of the 20th century, many scholars thought that the 10th Amendment had little relevance. Then along came the Lopez case.